Hi, I'm Michelle Illix, Community Outreach Coordinator with the Registry of Motor Vehicles. Older drivers make up a large part of the driving population. Shifting gears, the Registry of Motor Vehicles Older Driver Safety Program looks at older driver trends, identifies warning signs of unsafe driving, provides advice on how to prepare for driving retirement at any age, and explains the Massachusetts licensing and reporting policies and procedures. So let's get started. Research shows that as a group, older drivers have a low crash rate, and that's because they tend to regulate their driving by putting self-imposed limits on their own driving. For example, many older drivers limit or eliminate driving at night or in high-risk situations like during rush hour. Older drivers tend to drive roads that are familiar to them. They're less likely to use their phones while driving, and they're less likely to drink and drive. A study released in October 2020 by the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety shows that older drivers aged 55 to 74 are less likely to be involved in a fatal crash than drivers aged 35 to 54. This is encouraging news, and it's due to better health, better highway infrastructure, and better in-vehicle technology. Unfortunately, the crash rate begins to increase for older drivers after age 75. And while the crash rate increases for this age group, the number of miles driven tends to decrease. So there is cause for concern. Drivers over age 75 have the highest crash rate per mile driven. The fatality rate for drivers age 80 and older is the highest among any other age group, because many older drivers, as well as their older passengers, are not able to withstand the impact of a collision. What's causing the increase in crashes? It's mostly due to functional impairments. Our vision, reaction time, and reflexes, our cognitive ability, as well as our hearing diminish with age. These functional impairments impact our ability to drive. Good vision and quick reflexes are the key to safe driving. 90% of all the information we gather as we drive comes from our eyes. When a driver sees a potential hazard, the information is sent to the brain. The brain then processes that information and determines what to do and sends signals to our body that tell us how to react to the situation. The time it takes for the brain to process the information and essentially tell the driver what to do to avoid the hazard is called the reaction time. Driving is an extremely complex skill. In addition to functional impairments, certain medications may impact our driving. People age 65 and older are likely to take one or more medications. Some medications cause side effects that negatively impact the ability to drive. It's important to take medication that's prescribed by your healthcare provider, but it's critical to understand how that medication might affect your driving. Ask your doctor or pharmacist how the medication will impact your driving. And keep in mind that Massachusetts Law, Chapter 90, Section 24, operating under the influence, or OUI, includes prescription and over-the-counter medications. So if the prescription or over-the-counter med affects your ability to safely operate a motor vehicle, you could be cited for operating under the influence. If you're wondering about your driving skills, the Registry of Motor Vehicles compiled a list of warning signs to help you assess your ability to drive. The warning signs of unsafe driving include having difficulty seeing at night or in low light conditions, having difficulty keeping up with the posted speed limit, being intimidated by passing vehicles, having difficulty seeing a police officer on detail, getting lost on once familiar roads, noticing dings or dents on a vehicle, being easily distracted while driving, and having difficulty reading road signs or following detours. The complete list can be found on our website at mass.gov/RMV. Research shows that most of us will live longer than we're safe to drive. Women tend to live 10 years beyond their safe driving lives, and men tend to live 6 years longer than they are safe to drive. It's important to plan for driving retirement early in life and to identify alternative forms of transportation. Don't wait until driving becomes a crisis. So, how do we plan for driving retirement? We encourage you to plan ahead because mobility can change even temporarily. So, here's your homework. Identify where you've driven over the past several days, and then identify how you'd get there if you did not drive. Research alternatives to driving in your community. Is there public transportation, a local shuttle or van? Are there ride-sharing services? Or are friends and family members able to give you a ride? The time to plan is now, not when driving becomes a crisis. It also might be helpful for you to create a savings account that's dedicated to transportation expenses. We talked about planning for your own driving retirement, but what should you do if you're worried about a friend or a family member's driving? Who's going to have the conversation? Will it be you, a sibling, a friend, or a healthcare provider? Identify the person to whom the driver will listen. Have the conversation as soon as possible, but not while you're driving. When you have that conversation, be respectful and understand the older driver's needs and wishes. And then, based on the driver's needs, provide them with a list of resources and alternatives to driving. MIT's Age Lab and the Hartford Insurance Company offer a great resource called We Need to Talk: Family Conversations with Older Drivers. We have a link to that book on the resource page of this presentation, as well as on our website at mass.gov/RMV. A driver's license is a privilege, not a right. None of us has the right to drive. If you are no longer driving, consider surrendering your driver's license. You may obtain a free Massachusetts ID card when you voluntarily surrender a driver's license that is still valid and unexpired. Complete a voluntary surrender affidavit and mail it along with your driver's license to Medical Affairs. A voluntary surrender affidavit verifies that the surrender is for medical reasons, and it acknowledges that medical clearance will be needed to have the license reissued. If a person is not willing to voluntarily surrender their driver's license, and you feel that they are a threat to public safety, you can submit a request for medical evaluation form to Medical Affairs. The form is available online at mass.gov/RMV. You can either fax the form to 857-368-0018 or mail it to RMV Medical Affairs, P.O. Box 55889, Boston, Mass. 02205-5889. Keep in mind that there is no confidentiality when it comes to reporting an unsafe driver to the registry, so you must include your name and contact information. If you have questions about reporting procedures or how a medical condition might affect your driving, contact Medical Affairs at 857-368-8020 or visit mass.gov/RMV. Massachusetts law requires in-person license renewal for license holders age 75 and older. The RMV now offers senior hours every Wednesday for customers age 65 and older by reservation only. There are 3 ways to make a reservation. Call 857-368-8005 or email mass.drmv@dot.state.ma.us or by going online to mass.gov/RMV, click Make or Cancel a Reservation, and then select Senior Hours All Transactions. Remember, you must be at least 65 years old and have a reservation to visit during senior hours. Beginning May 3rd, 2023, you will need a real ID or a passport to fly within the U.S. or to enter federal buildings. Whether you hold a driver's license or a Mass ID card, the registry can upgrade your license or ID card to a Real ID federally compliant credential. Keep in mind that not everyone will need a Real ID. If you do not need a Real ID, your standard level of license or ID card can be renewed online at mass.gov/RMV. A Real ID does require you to make an appointment to visit the registry or AAA. Learn more at mass.gov/ID. Here is a list of resources to help you understand and support older drivers in your community. To host one of the RMV's community outreach workshops, please complete a request form online at mass.gov/RMV or email me at michelle.alex@dot.state.ma.us or call 857-368-9457. Thank you for learning about older driver safety, driving retirement, and the Registry of Motor Vehicles. To learn more, visit mass.gov/RMV. Please follow us on Twitter @MassRMV. Thanks again and stay safe.